the Breast Cancer Society has been great. There was one time where I talked to one of the ladies there, and I was telling her how much pain I was in, and she told me, we have a program where they can come and help you. They come and help you clean and even change the sheets on your bed, things that were everyday things that I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't mop. And so they had somebody come out, and she helped me for quite a while. And also the Hope Supply, which, when you get breast cancer and you don't have health insurance, you're going to take a big hit financially. And so, everything else suffers. I couldn't work. I mean, I was still working, but I had to really downsize the amount of hours I worked. And so financially, it really was a hard time. And so the Hope Supply, but it's not just that they give you things, it's the fact that, like they said inside, you get to meet the women that work there, and you become friends, and you see just how caring they really are. And it's just amazing how nice people are. Sometimes you forget because there are mean people, but then they're the kind of people that remind you that they really are there to help you. They really are invested in the programs and wanting to do for you. It really is important to them. And they're all really, really nice. And so I'm very grateful for that, because there also was a time where I needed counseling because I didn't know how to deal with the emotional part of this. You go on survive mode. You survive, and then once you get better, the emotions take over, and that's when you really don't know what to do. And, they referred me to someone to talk to that, it was a person that was specialized in cancer survivors. She knew to say what I needed to hear, and that was very helpful. And anything you need, you just call them and they'll find a way to help you. So it's great. I didn't tell my kids. My son was in Afghanistan at the time, so he had no idea that I was sick the whole time. I didn't want to burden him. He was going through enough. He was pretty angry when he found out, and so I should have told him, and it made him feel like I didn't trust him with that information. And I have a daughter, so she didn't know either, and in time they found out. And I have a little boy, he's 10 now. He had no idea. He just knew that I was sick, and they eventually found out, so I wish I would have just told them from the very beginning and let them know that I trusted them with that information. My advice would be, let people help you. People want to help. They don't know what to do. They feel, those that love you, they feel helpless also. And a lot of times we try to be strong so that we don't hurt them, or we just don't want them to feel what we're feeling, but in reality, they want to be a part of that. They want to feel like they're helping, like they're doing for you. And I think that's really important and through their journey, because they're also going through a journey. It's not just us. And they don't know what to do, just like we don't know what to do. So all together, it makes the journey a lot easier. I used to be the kind of person that I was very OCD and very like, I need to be on time, I need to do this, I need to do that. And looking back, I was realizing how I wasn't living my life. And now even, everything's important to me, the little things. And because tomorrow's not promised to us. And, like your children are so much more important, the time you spend with them. And even in the bad times, even those are important because you're there to live them. And life is just, it sounds kind of cliche, live for the moment, but it's not. It really is, because when you look back, what did you do with your life? So now, whatever life I have left, I really, really want to live it. And I don't regret. I don't regret anything anymore. I just am trying to do what I need to do for my family and be there for my kids and just really enjoy the moment. Because sometimes we get so caught up in everything that we forget to live and what a privilege it is to be alive. That was the biggest lesson.
I had just turned 40 in November, found out I had cancer in January. It's important that you take your health seriously. I had a problem and I knew it months before. I knew something was wrong with my breasts, and I had mobile mammograms come to work. I had opportunities and I didn't take them. And by the time I found out, it could have been too late. It was already stage 3. I had 4 tumors and it spread to my lymph nodes. I would tell anyone, don't be embarrassed. If you have anything, if they appear different, if there's discharge, see your doctor. That's what they're there for. Because you have to find out early in order to be okay. That's what's important. I love the Breast Cancer Society. You guys have been a godsend to me. Cancer's a dark time and it's lonely. And when you get to go somewhere with people that care about you, and they know your name, you walk in and they embrace you. They've helped me with things from toothpaste to beds to counseling to wigs when I couldn't walk out of the house with this bald scalp. It's important for people to know that an organization like that exists and that they care about people. I was blessed. I had my husband, my children, my extended family, and my church, and they made a difference. I had someone with me at every treatment. I had someone bring meals in on chemo days, which rocked. Not for me, because I couldn't eat them, but everyone else could. It's important to have that, and if you don't, search out these organizations that can be that support system so that maybe survivors like me can help someone else. I just want to say that a lot of people look at breast cancer and they think of pink ribbons, and pink ribbons is beauty. Cancer's ugly. It tears your family down. My daughter tried to commit suicide right after my last chemo. My husband was put into a mental hospital because he had a nervous breakdown. This year has been the hardest year of my life. But you discover that you can be stronger than you've ever imagined, and you know that you can get better. And when you find the goodness out there, the pink ribbons become the people that support you, that are there for you. And that's what I want people to understand. It's a real disease. It destroys families. It destroys a person's sense of self. But with resources like the Breast Cancer Society, with survivors, going to group meetings, doing things like that, maybe you can feel a little bit better and it won't be so hard.
People that are diagnosed with cancer don't think it's the end of the world, because it's not. It's the beginning of life for me. It had me look at life differently and more positive than I was before. And so don't take any minute for granted. Just live it to the fullest. I had my family and good close friends, and they were there for me no matter what. Even though they didn't know how to help me, they were there. I was pretty fortunate to have good doctors to tell me everything, laid it all out for me. So just don't be afraid to ask anything. The Breast Cancer Society has been a good support to go for help, to find different avenues to do things, whether it be financially or emotionally, to help. So they've been awesome. Yeah.
I knew it existed, and my grandmother died at 51 of breast cancer. So I think I was maybe 1 year old when she died. And I had always heard the rumblings around the house here and there, but I thought I was tough. I thought, oh no, nothing's going to slow me down. I've always heard that one of my aunts died maybe at 75. I had an uncle who died of cancer when he was 90. I always thought, oh, cancer's for old people. They're not for strong, strong-bodied and strong-willed people like myself. So I just kept moving and thought that nothing could get me. Stage 4, it had traveled down to the lower part of my spine, and it had gotten into my bone, and but they got it. So stage 4, I'm amazed, and I was so happy. I had spoken to a nurse through my health insurance, and she says, she calmed me down because I called and I was pretty upset. And she calmed me down. She said, stage 4 is not a death. It's not an absolute. She says, you can make it. I want you to start exercising. I want you to start eating well. I want you to start thinking positive. And that really helped. My life has changed dramatically. It has, I'm no longer working. I was a teacher for a long, long time, and realized and in fact, even after I had the chemo, I think I was still going through chemo, just the tail end of it, I went back to work, and I really tried, but I just could not do it. I did not have the concentration level that I once did, and I realized I couldn't be on my feet literally on my feet. You have to work really hard when you're an elementary teacher and try to grasp all those unique individuals in your classroom to make sure that you reach each one. And I just knew I did not have the energy anymore. So I did an early retirement, and so I've learned how to take better care of myself, and I have really struggled with giving up. That is one thing about cancer. It's not. It's the slow realization of how much we have to give up, not just from the basic, the slow aging that we do anyway, but how can I make the rest of my years challenging and meaningful and really reflect who I am? That's one thing cancer taught me. Who am I? What are those priorities? In what way do I wish to be a part of society? So I think to be a leader, to be a nurturer, to be a health advocate, to be really, all in all, to be a wise woman. I think the Breast Cancer Society has been a great support group for me. Research shows that if you join a group, that your chances of survival are much better. But my choice of groups has not been to go and sit and just talk. I have to be more active, and so this type of event is part of my support group. Coming out to a luncheon, coming out and talking to you is my support. I can already feel my endorphins have just raised, exponentially, and I feel much better. I know I'm going to feel great, today and tomorrow and the next day because of this event. Also, I have taken advantage of the breast cancer store. So those items have been wonderful for me. Clean sheets, I can tell some of those sheets are very high end, and it's wonderful to crawl in bed between sheets that are made of cotton and, feel so good. Also, I have volunteered in that store. I learned so much about myself and other people when I am volunteering. And it makes me feel like I have a place to go. It makes me feel productive because I'm not working at the moment. And it makes me feel like I can do other things too, and that not all was lost when I was diagnosed with cancer.
Take a lot of support with you when you go to your doctor's appointments, because you don't hear everything they're saying, and sometimes you interpret what they're saying to you, because all you hear is the word cancer and everything sounds like a huge hill, and you just need little mounds at a time. So your support system needs to hear all that. I did have support from my kids. I think I wished I would have asked for more, but I was too proud to ask for people to come with me, so I can do this on my own, So if I had to do over, I would ask more too. I have 3 children, and they're all in their 30s, and they kind of all said, well, Mom, you've gone through a lot worse. This is just cancer. And it's like, just cancer? I think it was hard for them to hear it, and I don't think they totally understood, because my family has never dealt with cancer at all. My dad died of a squamous cell cancer, but there's been no breast cancer. There's been no major illnesses in my whole family. So we've been real naive on the whole illness of any kind. So they were better like a couple months into it, after it sunk in. When I first got diagnosed, I thought, I'm going to lose my hair. I need to go down and get a wig. So I went to a wig shop, and I stood at the door, and I couldn't go in. I just thought, I am not going to allow myself to do this. And then a month later, when my hair started coming out, I went back in. I actually bought 4 wigs. I bought different colors, different shapes, But then I thought, this is crazy. Here I am going through something, and I'm only thinking about myself. So I thought, if I don't wear a wig, it's kind of like this major billboard that I walk around with. that kids have come up to me and say, "Hey lady, why don't you have hair?" You know, and I can tell them, and I can make people aware that early findings are better than ignoring it. So and it's kind of like the hot flashes and all that thing that goes around with cancer, but mostly just paying it forward and just making people aware of what's actually happening. I tell everybody every year, go and get your mammo. Just mammograms are important. I had gone every year. My birth month is October, so that month is my month to get all my female stuff out of the way. It is my month to take care of myself. So if you don't have comparisons from previous years, they don't know what they're looking at. So they need comparisons. So every year. And when people know that you have cancer, they're naive, and people are afraid to touch you and to talk with you. And I'm all about hugs and encouragement. And so I found a lot of the world just kind of stood back because they didn't know how to deal with it. But when you walk into the Breast Cancer Society, you don't get that. You get hugs, you get encouragement, you get your you get your retail therapy out of the way, because you get to go one day a month, you get to go shopping, you know, and your funds are very limited when you're going through cancer. So some of the things that they offer are things that I can't buy right now. So it's fun. It's just a time to have fun that day. They have been a major support for me. I knew nothing about them. Sorry. And when you walk in the door, you feel like you're there with family. The world needs to know that cancer is not a death sentence anymore. Even when I first got detected, I thought, well, 5 years I'm gonna be gone. What am I gonna do in that 5 years? But getting into it more, it isn't a death sentence. It's a bump in the road, you know. I have been a workaholic all my life. I've worked, I've worked 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week for all my life. So I have a strong belief system in religion, and I used to say, God, what am I going to do? I used to have this conversation with him. How am I going to slow my life down? How am I going to enjoy life? What do I do? And be careful what you ask for, because I absolutely think that I got cancer because of not taking care of myself, you know, and people need to stop and smell the roses. That whole saying means a whole different thing to me now. Enjoy life. Money's important, but it isn't all that important. Enjoy the people around you. So it's been a good thing. Cancer's been a good thing. Today I can say that. Tomorrow may be a different thing, but it's been a really interesting experience, and I hope to pray that I can pay it forward somehow.
I was 49 years old when I was diagnosed with cancer, and it was a rough thing. For other men, I have to say, you know, breast cancer is not just for females. You don't lose any of your manhood because you have breast cancer. I'm 6'6", 265 pounds. I'm a big guy. I played every sport, and I had breast cancer, and I'm not embarrassed at all about it. And honestly, I couldn't have been more prepared to have breast cancer, and it's still a shock. I'm a cameraman for a living. I've probably done 100 television stories on breast cancer. I've been in surgeries. I've done training videos how to use the biopsy tools. I mean, I knew everything there was to know besides being a doctor or a nurse, breast cancer. But when you get that diagnosis, it's shocking. Even when I had a lump on my chest and I pretty much knew what it was because of all the information I've had in the background, it was still a major shock. It changed my life dramatically. The bottom line is when you get breast cancer and you go through the chemotherapy, and it's a very unpleasant thing, and you learn to grab on tight to the things that really matter, and the money and the cars and all those kind of things don't really mean anything. It's your health and your family members and your friends. That's what's the most important thing. And honestly, that's something I'd lost grasp of. I mean, I was more involved in how much money I could make, which one big production I could get. Now it's all about my family, and I work to pay the bills and feed everybody. But you know, it's not my primary focus. It's my family that means the most. And when you lose sight of that, the Lord kind of throws some stumbling blocks, and cancer is a much bigger block to slow you down and take stock of what's most important in your life. You know, I don't know if there's anything different for men, but I do know that I just want to thank and praise all the women in the Breast Cancer Society and all those people who have gone before me that provided resources and counseling and help and friendship. For example, my mother-in-law had breast cancer and been in remission and came back, and she was struggling on her second round of breast cancer when I was diagnosed. And that dear woman helped me and counseled me and told me what was coming, and it basically made me try to be more of a man to take it as well as she did, because she was so graceful. You never saw her in pain. You never saw her slow down. None of those things. And boy, it knocked me to my knees, you know. And so it was kind of like an example for me to try to strive to live in her shoes, and I couldn't do it. There's just no way I could do it. If you know anybody that has cancer, be a friend. Put out a hand. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to be embarrassed. Just walk up and give them a hug. I guarantee anybody who has breast cancer, anybody who has a loss of hair or all their hair gone from going through chemotherapy, they will appreciate your hug. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to be embarrassed. Be their friend. Hug them. Let them know that you appreciate them, and it'll make their day better, and it'll make yours. And hopefully someday you won't be in their shoes and need that help too.
I was 40 years old when I was diagnosed. It was pretty bad when I was diagnosed. I was about as far off as you could be. So there's a big story. I went to the doctor, you know, kind of fit into appointments with my daughter. And I said, well, I should probably ask her a question. So I sent my daughter out of the room and found out that I said, you know, I think I have something. Could you, check it out and see? Oh, and then it was boom, 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 boom. And it just so happened we were going to Utah for a family reunion. The boys were camping. I was getting phone calls from the doctor in Utah, and they're saying, you need to come in right now. We have an appointment at 4. I'm like, I'm not in state. Not possible. And so I postponed everything to the weekend, and Monday, it wasn't even, oh, by the way, you have cancer. It was, this is what we're doing. You have kind of no choices. My husband and my son were traveling for scouts that week, so I did all the pre-stuff before we met with the surgeon, and then I just kind of announced it to my husband in the car. Like, you need to get dressed because I have to go to the doctor and you have to come with me. Why? Well, because your wife has cancer. So it was shock. It was, I can't believe you've hidden this from me for so long, a couple weeks of appointments. We didn't tell my kids for a little while after that. We had to make sure I knew what was going on for initial treatments and things. And we sat and had our family meeting, and they were all just really quiet. Everyone was in the doing mode. What are we going to do? Just tell us what we're going to do. And so I was in a lot of trouble. I'm still in a lot of trouble. It's not being prepared for someone telling you have cancer. It's how you're going to deal with it. Do you have the personal strength and the family strength to carry you through it? My husband is fantastic. Couldn't ask for a better man. Few people who would say that he's not a good man. And without him, I would not have been able to do any of this. He is my rock. So in terms of support, I have got it hands down from my husband. And then it was amazing because I always knew my family would be there. My mom and my brother and sister and my dad and my aunts and uncles. I always knew. They're family. That's what they do. But because we don't have any family here in Arizona, the family that came out of the woodworks from my friends, phenomenal. And I knew that my friends would be there for me. They were there in amazing ways that I could never have imagined. So we have always said that we don't have family out here, but actually we do, and we have more family that I just never could have imagined how much family we have. It's okay to be angry, it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to be, let's just do this, whatever. It's okay to not cry. If you're not a crier, don't cry. And then when it comes to making your decisions, try and find people who've been through it that you can talk to. I really wish that I could have talked to some people and heard their experiences, because there's a lot of things you have to decide. 1 breast, 2 breasts, no breasts, implants, no implants, expanders. There's so much stuff you have to decide. And even though the doctors are there to explain it to you, and yeah, you can go on the web, it's nothing like hearing it from people who've been through it and who can say, if I were you in your situation, I wouldn't have done, or have you thought about. I just wish I could have talked to them before, because there's a lot of things I would have done differently. And if I had been able to talk to them and people my age, similar circumstances, that would have been fabulous. I don't regret it, but it just would have been so nice to have been able to talk to women like me in my situation. Then I could make my decisions. So in my head, cancer affects so many people, and I am always searching for ways to, to help my kids and my husband through this, because it's not just that I was diagnosed with cancer, it threw our family into such tremendous challenges. I mean, they're huge. And I worry every day about what lasting impact this has on my kids. And knowing that, yeah, sure, we're planning for me being here another 20 years, but I don't know how much longer everything's going to stay working. And I worry every day about them. This isn't just something that's affected me, it's affected them. And, we just need to, I want so much to find ways to support the kids and the spouses and the caretakers and, the moms and the dads. I still have parents, and they worry about me, and my in-laws worry about me, and cancer just is a beast that has attacked everyone. And I just hope that, with you guys on my side, we can continue to help them through all this, and that we continue to find ways to find the good drugs and fight the fight. And, just, I'll be here for a while. So however I can help you guys and give back to you, that say thank you, you've got me.
I was more patient than some people to get this wonderful thing called cancer, and I was already a great-grandmother 2 times when I received my diagnosis. I was in stage 1. I was fortunate enough that I noticed it myself, saw my doctor, and within a couple of weeks I knew everything that was going on. I had a suspicion in the beginning. I didn't want to just have everything come out at one time, so I told her slowly in stages. I told her that I had a spot that looked suspicious, and I was doing the right thing by going to see my doctor, and I was following that with a mammogram and with the other ensuing tests. And so she was with me on that journey all along. And so when it came right down to, yes, you have cancer, and yes, this is what you need to do, she was holding my hand the whole time. I would tell a woman who was newly diagnosed that just because you get the dreaded diagnosis does not mean that it's the end of the road. That there's a lot of hope out there. There's a lot of support. There's support and love from family and friends who really let you know how much they care. And there are so many organizations that give you financial assistance or other type of assistance, and it can just continue over and over, and there's so much more support than I ever thought there might be. If I know someone that's diagnosed or has any fear, go for it, you're going to make it. I did. I'm proof of it.
Was very terrible thing to happen to me. Then I was diagnosed with cancer, or I got cancer, and they started crying. They started acting really, really sad. It was a terrible, terrible situation. Everything changed dramatically because I couldn't do too many things that I wanted. I thought that I was to die. I went to sleep with that thought. I couldn't sleep all night long, and I woke up with the same thought. I couldn't act or react. I wanted to do something that the only thing I did, I held the Lord's hand, and I said, please hold me really hard and stay with me all the time. I talked to my family to help me to go through this situation, and they supported me. Then they still supporting me. I got closer to the Lord. I got closer to my family, and I had more confidence in myself. I'm happy every day, every second, every minute of my life. I would like to tell them to be strong. Then it's not bad to be afraid of, because that is really scary to know that we are dying practically, and for them to keep going in their lives, for them to work with their happiness, for them to work in their beliefs, for them to be realized as a women, and like I said before, to be happy every minute of their lives.